My guest today is Shai Tubali, who's an international speaker, author, and spiritual teacher. He is one of Europe's leading authorities in the field of chakras and the subtle body. Shai also serves as an academic researcher at the University of Leeds in the UK and has developed several meditation-based therapeutic methods. In today's episode, we talk about his new book, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, which explores 35 meditation techniques worldwide. These techniques can help all who are struggling with trauma, fear, uncertainty, depression, anxiety, and screen addictions. Welcome to Lifeology.
Thank you, James. I'm so happy to be here.
I am as well. That was quite a mouthful for me to say. I know you've done so many things, and it was really interesting when I was reading your backstory. You have such a diverse background, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing all your expertise when it comes to meditation and how we all can just take a moment and reflect and find our stillness and then go on throughout our day.
Yes.
Now, you were originally from Israel, correct?
Right. Yes,
and so
I was born in Israel. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did you transition into the UK?
No, I don't live in the UK. Then after 35 years in Israel, I chose to move to Berlin, Germany. From there, I studied at the University of Leeds in the UK, and now I've moved to live in Portugal.
That is fantastic. I know some of my viewers and listeners right now who are experiencing the winter blues in Northern America. I'm sure they're very jealous of you right now.
Yes, it's very sunny here and very joyful. Yeah. Yes.
Sure. Now, I was talking to you earlier about your education. So you have a master's degree in what? And then let's transition into your doctorate degree.
Well, my master's degree is in the relationship between cinema, between films, and the absurd.
Oh,
so,
sure.
Yes. So it's the connections between our sense that life is absurd, as Albert Camus described it, and how we can find this in film.
Oh, interesting. And I would be sure that would, as we recognize it in film, I'm sure it also then is translatable to the present culture and how we can understand the culture better. Yes.
Although it is a philosophical research, so the research was mainly about how we can cope with our absurd reality. Because there is a certain dimensions of life that is absurd, that doesn't make sense. So films very often, especially meaningful films, they explore this dimension and how we can cope with it.
Is there any movie that maybe my audience may be aware of that would really explore that?
Oh, plenty of films, and that's my joy to identify these films. For instance, we have this film that will perhaps be now the Oscar winner for this year. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. When I view this film, I see this film as a sort of battle with our despair and nihilism, and our choice to finally be in this universe, because the protagonist, she is everywhere and everything all at once, and finally at the end of the film, spoiler alert, she chooses to be in this one universe with her life as it is. So I see this as the heroic choice of the absurdist hero.
Yes. Wow. And for those who haven't seen it, it's a fantastic movie. Michelle Yeoh is wonderful. She got to finally explore all of the vast range of her acting skills. So I'm so happy for her as well. Exactly. Now, how did you transition into the PhD? You have a PhD though in philosophy. How did you transition from the master's to that?
Well, it's still philosophy, but in my PhD, I chose to focus on the philosophy of mysticism, which means that this relates to our subject today, which is meditation and consciousness. Because I would say that what I'm most fascinated with in this life is human consciousness and its potential. You see, so
Yes.
I study this both as an academic philosopher, but also subjectively and experientially as a practitioner and of meditation and a spiritual teacher.
Now, in your book, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, there are 35 different techniques that you studied. How did you determine which ones would, quote, make the cut or be in your book? Because I'm sure there's so many of them, and you could probably write multiple books on all the wonderful different meditation styles. But what was it about those certain 35 that you chose?
Yeah, that was an excruciating process, as you can imagine.
Sure.
It was difficult to choose. As it is usually in compilations, in this kind of textbooks. But for one, I would say that I chose these meditations because they are notable and classical, which means that these are meditations that represent the best of the classical meditations of the world traditions. Second,
Sure.
is that because I have aspired to divide the world of meditation into 7 different categories, each one consisting of specific meditations that has one common purpose.
Okay.
So for this, I had to select meditations more specifically that will fit into these categories.
How did you choose the 7 categories, or can you walk me through those real fast? Because I want to get into the meat of the book, but I want to hear what those 7 categories are.
Yes, that's good, because in the Western society and in research on meditation, we usually focus on benefits, and the categories are all about purposes. This is very different. Benefits are like lowering your blood pressure. But the 7 purposes as one is aligning your body and mind and grounding your being, which means it's all about relieving your existential tension. And the other second is about rekindling your joy of life, revealing tapping into your unconditional joy. Then there is the third category of building your presence and sense of true inner power. The fourth one is all about heart opening and compassion. Then there are meditations that deal with sound and with your voice, with discovering your voice. And then there is the 6th group that is all about inner wisdom and opening your third eye, opening your eye of wisdom. Right. And then the 7th one, which is of course the subtlest and the most sublime, is all about connecting with universal reality.
Wow. So it's interesting to hearing you say that. I'm really excited to read. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm really excited about reading this too, because there's so many things that you said that I appreciate the disconnect of the why you do it as far as the benefit, which is obviously wonderful. People will receive the benefit, but the reason, the rationale behind it, and to really break it down into each of those categories allows for a person to truly live a holistic and fulfilled life.
Exactly, and to choose the specific category, and from it the specific meditation that is most relevant to your stage of development and to your developmental needs right now. You see, because sometimes in the traditional way, people had to commit themselves to a certain set of practices, and that's it for the rest of their life. And it doesn't matter if the meditation is boring or if you feel that there is a different meditation that calls you to experiment with, you have to commit. Here, I believe that in this age, it is time for us to enjoy the abundance of meditation and to be able to wisely select the right meditations, and to also feel the freedom to replace them from time to time with more suitable meditation techniques. So I think that the revolution in meditation is all about making it an adventure and a joyful experience that you can really fall in love with meditation because you feel that it's such an open field of experimentation.
Yes. And I really appreciate how you're wording that, or how you're just describing it, because it can be an exciting time. It's funny. A couple of days ago, I was talking to a client of mine, and he said, "James, can you give me some ideas about meditation?" He was really struggling with a lot of thoughts, and hard for him to kind of slow down. And it's interesting because on the Western philosophy, you're talking about ways in which to, like you said, decrease one's blood pressure, to really increase dopamine levels. So I came from that approach and gave him specific ones that I know of and that I've worked with. But it's really interesting now to hear this. In this day and age, many people say, James or Shai, I don't have time to meditate. And of course, that's unfortunate, because we make time for things whether we realize it or not. We can make time to focus on anxious thoughts. And as we know, a form of meditation is you think about something over and over again, and that is a form of meditation. Not to its specific, its real definition, but it is a form of meditation when you constantly loop and think about a certain thing. What would you say to individuals who would say, Shai, I don't have time for that, or it seems like it's too much work. I don't know if that would even work for me?
Well, I would start by saying that every meditation, almost every meditation, has a much shorter version. So this means that you could actually sit, for instance, just before our interview, 2 minutes before that, and tune in to your natural self, to your natural being through even a 2-minute practice. Take, for example, take body scan, which is the very known meditation developed by the mindfulness leader John Kabat-Zinn. So, of course, inspired by Buddhist principles. So body scan is simply being aware of our sensations in the body just as they are right now. Now, body scan can take something like half an hour. But it also has a 2-minute version in which you simply in which you simply scan your body very quickly from below all the way to the top of your head and again down. So if you can do this kind of rapid focuses, I think this can actually change your day completely. So if you just send yourself friendly reminders on your cell phone, here 2 minutes for meditation, and it is incredible to realize that just 2 minutes of meditation immediately change your mood, immediately change your increase your sensitivity, and make you more prepared for action.
Wow. Now, that's one quick one that I think is obviously very important. It's funny on the Western, I keep saying Western or the U.S. side over here, because obviously you're in Portugal right now. But I've worked with a lot of individuals, and we talk about mindfulness techniques. And so mindfulness usually comes from a Buddhist background. And so the mindfulness aspect is the body scanning, but it's also incorporating let me back up. So when someone is dealing with a lot of anxiety, we often ground them to the present. In other words, you ground them to your 5 senses. And so you can use a form of this as far as you can go for a walk and be mindful of what do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? Exactly. What do I taste? What do I smell? And so that's a way to really ground people that are too much in their head with anxiety and fears and worries, and it grounds them to the present moment of their external external situation, which allows them to just take a moment like, oh, I don't have to worry so much about those thoughts. Can you walk us through ways in which people who do struggle with anxiety, depression, what are some specific ways in which they can use some of these techniques? And once again, for my viewers and listeners, the book is Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, which I highly endorse. What are some specific ways in which people can use some of these techniques to help them pull them out of their thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I really appreciate what you're saying because this is exactly the point that you are able to align mind and body. Usually, from the perspective of meditation, we are mostly daydreaming. We are only in our thoughts, which means that we are not really in real reality. So we are not really grounded. You say sometimes they say that meditation ungrounds you, makes you ungrounded, but this is not true. Meditation is here to ground you finally for the first time. So for what you are talking about, I would recommend the first group of meditations, which is all about aligning your body and mind. So, for instance, mindfulness of breathing, which is a classical meditation that is already 2,500 years old, is simply about being one with your breathing process. Now, your breathing process is the most real, the most accessible key to reality here and now, because you're breathing. This is real. It's not like you're thinking. So you're beginning to become one with your breathing process. It's not like you're observing your breathing process from the distance with attachment, but you're becoming one with it, which means you're aligning your mind with it, which means you're aligning your body, mind, and breathing. They become just one unified movement. And so with every in-breath, you can think, I am relaxing my body. With every out-breath, I am relaxing my body. With every in-breath, you can add whatever affirmation you would like, because with this affirmation, you're also beginning to, again, align your mind, body, and breathing. That's the principle. This is an immediate way to achieve basic sanity.
Yes, I 100% agree. In a psychological approach, we teach that whatever you think about determines what you feel. What you feel determines what you do. So if I'm thinking about something that's really overwhelming for me, my body is automatically going to feel the emotion, and that emotion translates to energy. So that energy then causes my nervous system to all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, something's happening. So all of a sudden our heart rate increases a little bit. And then what happens is we start to breathe more shallowly. And so all of a sudden, if I don't breathe, that is my normal breath, because I'm thinking about something that's anxious, or is causing me to feel anxiety, my breathing slows down. And so when my breathing slows down, or the shorter breaths rather, then all of a sudden I'm not getting the full oxygen that I need. And if you don't get enough oxygen, obviously that affects your brain, and then that affects how you think. And so it's a circular path of your thoughts create your emotions create your body's response. So if your body's feeling like, oh my goodness, something's going on, your breath starts to change. So with what you're saying as well is to be mindful of your breath. If you can be aware of that and regulate that either through box breathing or different diaphragmatic breathing, other types of breathing, then all of a sudden it slows everything down. Then your mind says, oh, we're not in crisis anymore, because you're now getting the amount of breath you need. And then as you add those affirmations to what you're saying, though now you start to think of those affirmations, changes your mood, which then aligns with your breath. And so the breath is the aspect that a person can continue to use to change their thoughts, to then allow them to live in the moment and to decrease the emotions that they're experiencing.
Exactly. That's brilliantly said. Yes. I would just add a quote from the world of Tantric Buddhism. They have a saying there, that the mind rides the wind. The mind rides the wind, which means that the wind is the prana, and the prana is the subtle representation of our breath. Now, this means that wherever your breath goes, your mind goes with it. So if you if you guide your breathing in the proper way, then your mind begins to become aligned with it. So this is how prana actually tames your mind. So this, I think, coincides with what you're saying here.
You know, it's interesting to me, because when I think of the word inspiration, so that is a form of inhalation, divine inhalation. And so when I connect that word and the meaning of that word with what you're saying with the prana, which we know is breath, so as you connect that, and then all of a sudden, maybe with the seventh version of the category that you're talking about, perhaps that's the connection of the connecting with something greater than yourself, or connecting with the divine. As you are mindful of where your breath goes, your mind goes, which means your spirit would go there and find that inspiration, which we know means the divine breath. And so I'm curious, is there any correlation between that at all? I mean, that's just what I was thinking as you said that.
between breathing and divine inspiration.
Correct.
Oh yes. Actually, the sages of ancient India, both the Buddhists and the Hindu, they were really intrigued by this point, that if you can affect your breathing process in certain ways, you can actually awaken what they call the subtle body, which is the body within the body, and in this way connect with the greater reality. So one of the forms of meditation is actually the very opposite of what we're talking here, which is about increasing your breathing process, and this is called kumbhaka. And kumbhaka is all about cessation of breathing. So
Interesting.
So there you control your breathing in the way that you actually stop it. You increase the gap between in-breath and out-breath, or you increase the in-breath, or you increase the out-breath, or you increase the gap between the two. And then when your breathing stops, it's as if your known self, your familiar self, becomes absorbed in the greater reality. So it's as if you are returning to a pre-birth condition. So that was actually, interestingly, a goal of many sages and practitioners, to be able to hold their breath for as long as possible in order to reach mystical states of consciousness.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That's fascinating. Because I know as far as when you inhale and hold, and you don't breathe, and then you exhale and then hold. I'm familiar with that, but I didn't realize the reasoning behind that. That's brilliant. It's interesting because when you do hold your breath, for me anyway, everything just becomes quiet. And so the quietude of then without the breath allows for my mind to kind of slow down. I mean, obviously I need to breathe, but in that quietude, when I'm holding my breath, if I'm doing a form of box breathing, it seems very quiet for me. So it's fascinating that these wise people obviously discovered that as well.
Yes.
We only have one more minute here. What would be a final takeaway that you would want my viewers and listeners to know about your book? One more time, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation.
Well, I would like them to understand, whoever listens, that meditation is a really flexible and vast phenomena, which means that first of all, we don't need to think about meditation as just this long-faced, closed-eyed, serene state. Meditation can be so many things, and this is what the book aims to show. Meditation can be forms of visualization. It can be dancing. It can be crying. It can be laughing. It can be communion with nature. It can be all sorts of expressions of loving kindness through our mind. It can even be prayer. So when we understand that meditation is so diverse, and we can approach it not just from the image that we have of meditation, but also from our direct need and our drive or inclination toward experimentation, joyful experimentation.
Yes, exactly. I honestly am looking forward to reading this book. I'm very curious about all these 35 different types. I know some of them, but a couple that you talked about, I was like, I've never heard of that. I can understand it as you explain it, but I've never heard of it. So I'm looking forward to exploring that as well. So if my viewers and listeners want to find out more information about you and to purchase your book, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation, Shai Tubali, where would they find all this information online?
Well, first of all, I would invite listeners to my official website, which is Shai Tubali. I know that it's hard to spell. It's Shaitubali.com. And there are plenty of blog articles there and videos and so on. And then there is a thriving YouTube channel, again under my name, which includes a great abundance of videos, including guided meditations and ways to integrate the meditative perspective and practice into your daily life.
Excellent. Well, once again, I highly endorse your work. I'm very impressed. And once again, I look forward to reading it as well. So my viewers and listeners, one more time, the book is Llewellyn's Complete Book of Meditation. And today I'm speaking with Shai Tubali. And so therefore, if you have any more questions, go to the show notes at jamesmillerlifeology.com and I will connect you with Shai and all of his information. Shai, thank you so much for being a fantastic guest on my show today.